this is dead weight. They don't actually believe what they believe, and if we're going to do this, we need to be our own thing. So
right.
But I think that's really hard to find on the internet because the underreporting on the Duncan Lemp situation is so crazy. The media does not want to talk about that at all because it's this weird confluence of gun confiscation and police murder and a bunch of taboo subjects that the media doesn't want to touch.
Well, and the mainstream media is pretty useless anyways.
That's
but
something
yeah,
we can get into a little bit later.
I wanted to ask you, Magnus, because you linked out an article on Twitter a little earlier. It wasn't an article, really. It was a story written by a woman in Tampa who was looking at the BLM protests going on in Tampa and decided, hey, I'm going to Louisville, and started reporting on what was going on there. I think she put this up in September, but she was over there in the summertime. And the groups that she was talking about, she didn't mention Boogaloo specifically, but she mentioned United Pharaoh Guard as one, and I think Not Fucking Around Coalition was the other one. And I'm just wondering, you guys loosely affiliated with them at all? I mean, their positions seem to be right down the line, you know, what you're about, except for maybe they don't get involved in any foreign policy stuff.
A lot of members of UPG I speak to every single day. John, one of the main guys in UPG, is in every one of my chats, and we actually all did a kind of joint operation, I guess. That sounds too cool, but like we all got together to go to Columbus to join the families of community members that were killed by police and speak out, and we were all there with them. So they're like, UPG as a whole is not really like a Boogaloo organization, but there are many Boogaloo boys inside of it. So that just like, you know, that I shared that story out because you saw in that article pictures of like, we were on the streets in Louisville, members of our organization, every single day throughout the entire summer. Nobody talked about it. John is in the trailer of the ABC Breonna Taylor documentary, marching with protesters. Nobody talked about it. And like it definitely seemed like the whole like layers of denial where like the media at first just desperately tried to deny our existence. And then the moment where we started becoming too widespread and we were getting too far in with these organizations and too public, that's when the demonization campaign happened. And that also happened right around the time that we were banned off of everything. So it's been a real struggle until lately of like to prove a lot of my claims because a lot of it was on Facebook and it's all been deleted. But slowly but surely, I'm reconnecting with these people and being like, oh, hey, this picture that I was talking about, here's that picture. Oh, that live stream when I said we were at this event, here's that live stream. And it's all people smart enough to save it to their phone. I'm like, I didn't save a lot of stuff because I didn't assume that I would be deleted off the entire internet.
Well, you know, one of the things that was riveting about that writing was that she was from Tampa and had been at these Tampa BLM protests and watched police basically grab people and mace them or whatever the hell they were doing. And then when she's in Louisville near Breonna Taylor Square, she sees an African-American running across towards the square being chased by police. And he gets close, the police get close, but as he gets to the square where, you know, UPG and NFAC are standing there armed, the police stop. And that whole notion that, you know, they don't want to get into a shootout, you know, they want to have the advantage situation and only press that advantage when they have it. So it's like, okay, if these groups are here, it's not just a reaction to the police, it's protecting the First Amendment for those people.
Absolutely, because the police are infinitely more hesitant to go after an armed group for any reason. But if they just see some college kids standing around holding signs, they'll beat them to a pulp with no hesitation. So that was kind of like the two reasons we would ever show up to an event as open Boogaloos, because like all of these people, including like if we had people at the courthouse in Portland, they weren't wearing Hawaiian because it wasn't necessary in that situation. But if we show up with our plate carriers and with our rifles and everything, it's either because there's been consistent outside groups, whether that be Proud Boys, whether that be militia, whether that be, you know, random antagonists that have consistently come and harassed protesters, or it's because we saw that the police were running people over with horse cops and tear gassing people and shooting people with rubber bullets. And then, you know, particularly in Houston, when we showed up, people stood in between the cops that were tear gassing everybody and the protesters in gas masks and plate carriers with their rifles and stood there, and the cops just stopped. And because they don't, you know, they want to go home. There's no threat to their life to, you know, to shoot some kid holding a boombox with a rubber bullet in the face. But if you shoot somebody that's got a rifle, they start to, you know, kind of think about it. So that's definitely part of our line of logic of like the second ensuring the first is like, hey, you know, these are people and they have a right to be here and you cannot do this. And if you're going to continue to use such excessive force on them, then there's going to be a reaction, whether that be like pure black groups like NFAC, whether that be mixed groups like us, or whether they even be, you know, Trump supporters and everything. Like if the more force you put on a group of people, especially in America, the more you're going to see armed individuals ensuring that those people can protest.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And